Hello and welcome to Chapter 18, our final chapter of the Ethical Hacking course. Okay, Chapter 18 covers cloud technology and security. All right, so let me remind you again, I'm going to ask you to take a few notes and submit them as homework. All right, so what is cloud computing? Cloud computing is storing and accessing data and programs over the internet instead of locally. That's what it really means, nothing else. The advantages of cloud computing, in addition to cost saving, is that you can tweak, customize, and configure services as needed to meet their needs, both now and in the future. That's really why everybody is really moving to Microsoft Azure or Amazon AWS services or Google. Those are the big three players that are out there. All right, so here's the first thing that I want you to do is elasticity, rapid or whatever. Elasticity. Within the cloud, please write this down. Elasticity within the cloud have the ability to be expanded and adjusted to add more performance, space, or capability to the system, allowing the users to grow as needed without having to worry about the process. Okay? So you can write that down. You can write it down right off of the notes right here. What are the forms of cloud services? You have to write these three different forms. Now, if you look at many different books, there are many different ways expressing it, but these are basically the three different types of services that are allowed in cloud computing. Number one, the SaaS, which stands for Software as a Service. This is, you can use software instead of installing it locally on a server or a local machine. So you can get it right off the cloud. PaaS, Platform for as a Service, is a framework to develop an application. This is really for software developers mostly, and not you, which is not you or me or anyone for as a network engineer. Finally is the IaaS, the infrastructure as a service. This is setting up a whole network, including networking devices or services, computing, firewalls, storage, the whole 9 yards, everything. It's like having your private LAN remotely in the cloud. All right, so please write those down. Computer, let's take a look at some of the cloud computing attacks. There are four different points that I want you to write down. Number one, session writing. This is like the cross-site requesting forgery, tricking the victim onto executing a command so that the attacker can gain access. Number two, side channel attacks. This is to breach the confidentiality of the victim. You can do this by placing a virtual machine on the same physical location as the victim. This type of attack is very difficult, by the way, to execute, and therefore it's rare. Number three, signature wrapping attacks. Where are we here? Signature wrapping attack can be relies on the exploitation of the technique used by web services. We might be, let me see, where are we? The cloud attacks is one, there you go. Oh, there you go. Yeah, right here. 1, 2, 3. And number four, there is all attacks on a local, everything, all the different types of attacks that can be placed on a local LAN applies on the cloud as well. All right, so the four types of attacks are session writing, side channel attacks, signature wrapping attacks, and all the other attacks that can be found on a local LAN applies to the cloud as well. All right, so cloud computing security. So now let's talk about security. Well, now here, the controls for cloud security. There are 5 points that I want you to write down. Security design and architecture. Number one, security design and architectures are important. So make sure that you use firewalls, virtual machine, storage encryptions, IDSs, transport layer encryptions, policies, and many other tools can be employed here. Number 2, identity and access management. Number 3, risk management, risk assessment, and vulnerability assessment. Number 4, compliance and industry standards, to the industry standards. And number 5, let's see, the availability, of course. Okay, so again, the 5 cloud computing securities are security design and architecture, identity and access management, risk management, and risk assessment and vulnerability assessment, compliance to the industry standards, and of course the availability. All right. Some pen test cloud networks include the SOTSA, Lodestorm, BlazeMeter, Nexpose. Nexpose is a really big vulnerability assessment, very good and widely used. This is a vulnerability scanner. You know, you have to pay for it. This is something that if you really want to use and find out, this is good for LAN and cloud computing. The Nexpose. So if you're ever going to be a pen tester, that is probably the vulnerability assessment tool that you will need. It's a software that you can download, but you have to pay a subscription for. AppTalk, Jenkins, Xamarin, all of these are different types of pen testing tools that you can use for cloud networks. All right, so that's it. Oh, that was short. All right, so write down these notes and submit them as homework. All right.